Hello and welcome to episode 31 of the Boot Nerds podcast. Jay, what's going on?
My friend, it's good to be back. 31 episodes now. We're turning a corner. We're as many episodes in as I am old. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but
it's pretty old.
I mean, it's pretty old. Yeah, let's just thank you for watching. Bye-bye. I'll go and... Yeah, so we have a pretty good episode for you today. There's going to be talks about new boots. That's going to be in a little bit. We have a top 5, as you can see in the title. That's going to follow after that. And then, of course, we have some questions that we're going to answer from you guys. So if you haven't already done so, and you have a question you want us to answer, you can leave that in the comment section right down below. Now, before we get started, also, don't forget to leave a like to support the channel. We'll really appreciate it. And also, of course, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And if you have, spread the word to your mom, your friends, your cat. Get people to click the subscribe button and spread the word on the Boot Nerds podcast. And with that, Josh, I think we're ready to get started talking about some very... exciting new boots, right?
Yep. Also, audio-only versions available at bootnerds.com. Go check that out. It's all linked down below.
So what happened, guys, is that during the Q&A section, Josh and I got into a talk that ended up being the title of the video. Initially, we planned for it to be the top 5 best cheap boots out there, but because of this discussion that you're going to see in a minute, well, we ended up changing it. So I did something I don't normally do, which is to actually chop up the video so you can actually see the discussion we had right now if you came for it via the title. After that, we're going to talk about the Lotto's release of laceless boots. We're going to have the top 5 that we initially planned to be the title of the video. And of course, some more questions. So without further ado, take it away. Hello, Jim and Jay. Do you feel as if Puma is taking steps backwards? The future has really disappointed me compared to its predecessors, even though I like a narrower last. And I feel that the one is also not as great as the previous one. Do you feel that same way? Do you feel that same way? Maybe going backwards is too harsh, but what do you think? And I thought it was a great question because I kind of thought about this not recently, but maybe half a year ago, that maybe that wave that Puma were riding, maybe it was slowing down a bit at least. I mean...
Oh, definitely. I definitely think that the momentum they had at one point is significantly slowed, if not dead stopped, maybe even falling back down the hill at this point. But I think it's hard to say that the boots they're making are inferior. I will agree that I don't particularly love the current future versus what they did originally with that concept. I just think that while what the direction they've gone in maybe makes more sense and might theoretically appeal to more people because people are really into knitted uppers these days, it hasn't appealed to that audience for whatever reason. Maybe they don't like the boots, they don't like the look, they don't like the feel, and I think the feel to me is what's disappointing about that boot. It's just a little bit too stiff for a knitted upper. Exactly. The Puma 1, I think, is better than it has ever been, if I'm being honest, from a quality as well as a performance standpoint, but it still kind of looks like a variation of the same thing. And we've seen, 4 generations of that design and shape and silhouette at this point. I think people are maybe getting a little bit sick of it. And then the Puma King Platinum was kind of out of nowhere. I did not see that coming. I think they're excellent boots. There's really nothing else like it on the market right now. But that was never going to be their number one. That was always going to be their third place extra option football boot. So, I mean, it's tough for them because I think the future concept is excellent. I just feel like it needs a pretty significant change to get people excited again. And while the one is really good right now, it's another one that maybe needs a more significant change to get people excited.
Yeah, you're right. And I think we actually might see players moving into the King Platinums on a more consistent basis pretty soon. We've seen Aguero already training in them. Lukaku. It's just... maybe it's actually Puma realized that, okay, this boot is hella popular, and it's a good alternative to the one. And maybe, I mean, I think the King might cannibalize a bit on the one, actually, because it does everything the one does, but only in a more traditional speed boot-like way for me.
Yeah, but you know what? I think to be fair to Puma right now, there really isn't any, short of the new Mercurial, which I think has been a very successful launch. Nobody has really put out anything over the last 6 months that I think has really blown anyone away and has done super, super well from a sales perspective, right? I think where Puma can be applauded and should be applauded is that they're legitimately not trying to copy anyone. They're making their own very unique football boots. Unfortunately, that unique thing, while it was interesting and drew a lot of attention to the brand at first, it's no longer the newest thing. And look at a brand like Nike. The Phantom Vision, up until this point, has been more or less a failure. I don't care what anyone says. It hasn't sold well. The pros have not received it well. It hasn't done well. Like, it's
because of the sock, man. You know it. It's because of the sock.
Yeah, it's a weird looking football boot. There's no way around it. Adidas did something very extreme with the Nemesis. Has not caught on. Kind of weird looking. It just wasn't received well, right? You have to. It's hard for these brands, and I feel for them because they have to come out with something really drastically different
every 6 months, right? They have to bring innovation to the marketplace every 6 months. People expect that, and that's Puma's problem, that they actually had this brilliant idea with the Future, but I feel that somehow the boot has been rushed. The last couple of generations have been kind of rushed because they just need something new. And it feels like now they're just giving us something new for the sake of giving us something new instead of actually giving us something that is a significant improvement. Because I agree with you, the first Future was by far my favorite Future. I loved that boot. I don't think the new Future is a bad boot, but the 4.1 just isn't. It's not as unique anymore, and it doesn't really ring the same bell with me as the first couple ones did. I don't think they've gone backwards or downhill. I just think they've stagnated on a relatively high level. I think that's how I'm gonna want to phrase it.
Yeah, you're right. The boots. It's a situation where the boots are still really good.
Yeah.
It's just people are kind of bored of it, which
and maybe that's also, yours and my perception of it is also maybe we have been spoiled because we're also sat here and saying, oh, it's the same. Oh, that's annoying. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I mean, but this is the marketplace and the brands have to realize it. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah. It's hard to do it right because you can make subtle changes to a football boot and make it better, which I think is what they've done with the Puma 1 line over the last 2 years.
And the new X line, for instance.
The new X line, look at the Neo Beta.
Yeah,
I think is a great example of that.
It's an overhaul. It's not a complete revamp of the line.
But it's I don't want to say that it comes down to the marketing, but it kind of does. Because look at what Nike did with this new Mercurial. Is it really that? It's a lot of little things that make the final product feel a lot different from what they did before.
It's a lot better.
But maintain the same graphics of the Vapor 12 on the Vapor 13, and you probably wouldn't even know it was different until you actually put it on your foot.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's hard. I feel for Puma. I don't really have any good advice for them other than maybe it's time for another revamp, which seems crazy to say given that all of this has only been around. I don't want to
be the guy who advocates a revamp already. I think this is too much. I think the market should slow down. People should calm down. I mean, the brand should also, sometimes, okay, there might be outside expectations, external expectation that they always churning out new innovation, but maybe they should just say, okay, slow down. We don't care what people say. We know what is right. We have our vision. Should we just take it slow, chill a little bit, develop something that's new, truly exciting, and then, keep riding the wave, maybe, find our level right now, and who knows, maybe they have something crazy coming up that we don't know about, but...
Yeah. But do you think that, look, because the design team, I'm sure, has crazy ideas that they'd love to do, but these are ultimately businesses, and they run based on risk. And I think that a lot of these companies are running on, hey, let's throw as many different ideas that we have and as many new models as we possibly can in a very short period of time. And if 1 out of 10 works really well, hey, that's going to be perceived as more successful rather than let's work on this thing for 2 years, not really make much changes in that time, lose the popularity, and then this new thing comes out and it flops anyways. And now you're just 2 years behind again.
It's true. It's just a shame it's like that. these days.
Yeah.
I mean, it has become such of a hype thing that there's no chill from the consumer's point of view. There's no chill from an expectation point of view. It's just, hardcore newness all the time. And I'm not sure it's for the better of the development of football boots, because we get these half-assed solutions all the time. And it sounds rough because there have been a lot of great innovations and developments on boots over the last 2 years. But I just feel that if everyone took a chill pill and, gave people a little more time to actually go deeper and innovate, it would be a better environment on the marketplace. Yeah. I know it's not going to happen. It's total utopia. But that's how I would like it.
Okay, I have a question for you, Jay.
Yeah, sure.
And it ties into this one.
Okay.
Because I really feel like when we grew up, when the Predators would come out and the T90s would come out and all these popular lines at the time,
right,
I feel like they would release and there was a huge emphasis on this is what's new and these are the technologies that this boot has. I almost feel these days that when a new boot comes out, it's like, here's the new boot. It's got a new design, but look how cool the color is. Like, I feel like the emphasis is almost more so on the looks of a product these days rather than what they've actually spent all the money in developing. And I think that's really what is hurting all the brands at this point is they've emphasized this, worry about the newest thing, don't worry about the actual quality and performance of the product. And
exactly.
Nike does a pretty good job for the most part, I would say, of emphasizing their technologies. But even look at a brand like Adidas. Here's a laceless boot, and it did well the first 2 years. But really, have they ever come out and said, hey, this is why a laceless boot is better? No. It's just, here it is.
Laceless, yeah.
Kind of make your own opinion, form your own opinion.
And this is what I think is weird. They're actually doing a very good job on the Nemesis line. Well, they were. And the whole, it is such a unique selling proposition with the torsion tape, the bands, tension tape it's called these days. But it's just weird that when they do it, it doesn't hit home. So I'm just thinking if the demand from the marketplace has changed so much that, you and me were dinosaurs. We want to hear about the latest technology, but people just want to hear about how cool it is. And look, there's a Spotify playlist to go with it. And maybe that's just it. Having the right boots on the right people at the right time. Maybe this is the new black.
I think it would be smart for any of these brands to come out because they're spending all this money on development. They have actual statistics on why they came to this final product.
Right.
Like remember when it was the Predator Power Swerve and it was like halfway through its run and then they came out with the Control, the Swerve and the power variants of the boot. And they had these statistics to go along with each version where, this would give you 2.7% more swerve because of these things that we did. And I'm sure that those numbers aren't completely bogus based on their tests, but I always thought that was really cool. And I think that is a huge selling point because ultimately you're buying these boots not just because of the way that they look, but because of the way that they perform. And I feel like you're right. The emphasis now is like, here's our new color, here's the rap song to go along with it, and here's a guy doing a bunch of tricks. Nobody knows anything about the boots. They just think it looks cool. And I think there's definite value to educating even the average consumer on why this product is better than the other ones and you should buy this one and not those.
But don't you think it's because people have had enough of all the, the tech details that they've heard enough of all the, this will give you 2% more shooting power. Like people's bullshit radar is just more developed these days. So the brands have to find another way of selling them because, we're just fed up as consumers. I mean, yes, you and I and everyone listening here will have enough boot knowledge and understanding to realize that, okay, there might actually be something to it. But to the average consumer out there who doesn't care as much about it, will just hear, you're going to run faster. And maybe you will. And they've found that out in the lab. But I just get the feeling that people have become a little bit numb to that. And that might be the reason. I don't know where you're at.
I actually disagree with you on that because I just think of football boots are part of the technology industry, like it or not. The new iPhone comes out. It's faster than the last one. But guess what? The last one is also really fast. But people will willingly spend an extra $2,000 on the new one, even though they just got the last one 6 months ago because it's 2% faster to process a picture or whatever it's going to be. I don't really know much about that kind of thing. Even the car industry, everyone is fixated on like statistics that realistically do not matter when you're driving the car on the road. But if you can have statistically the best car in whatever category you're in, that's going to lead to a lot of sales. And I feel like when football boots really made that huge leap from all being variations of the Copa Mundial to turning synthetic, and we had the power boots phase and all of this technology being introduced, that was the emphasis. It was like, we've made these changes and we've implemented these technologies for the benefit of you as the player. Here's why. Now it's not like that. Now it's like, oh, we made this new boot and it looks cool and you should buy it.
But is that because, boots as a whole have basically, from a uniqueness standpoint, and this is going to be a bit of a bold statement, I haven't fully thought it through, so bear with me if it's bullshit, but is it because the boots overall have kind of stagnated and the development have kind of stagnated a bit, so all boots are now becoming more and more like one type? They're all relatively light. They're all relatively soft. They all have some sort of tech or grip element on the ball. I mean, a boot's just merging into the same stereotypical, how do you say this in English? The way of perceiving football boots. Has that, kind of been narrowed into more narrow field of what people expect? I mean, back in the days, we had power boots, we had speed boots, we had the classic boots, modern classics. I mean, there were so many types, and I feel that these days, if you look at Adi, they have the Copa. I mean, 5 years ago, the Copa could have been classified as a speed boot if it would have been a little bit lighter. They have the X speed boot, Nemesis, also a speed boot, Predator. Hell, it's actually pretty light. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, you're right. No, everything has become almost too similar in a lot of ways. And it's kind of like what I said. Nobody wants to take huge risks anymore. They want, I feel like they're of this opinion that if they just put out a bunch of new colorways and very slight refreshes on the same products, that's more valuable to consumers to just always have something new in their face, rather than spending the time to develop something unique. And then ultimately when you put that out, it's a risk. I don't know. I don't love the idea. While I think football boots are, from a performance standpoint, better than they've ever been, I don't like the idea of saying that they are 100% for sure better than what we had 10 years ago. Because I think there are boots from 10 years ago that you could slot in as brand new today and they'd fit in.
I would probably disagree with that. I think I would more or less categorically say, that's just my opinion, that football boots today are better than 10 years ago. And maybe it's because you and I would prefer different things. But I feel with the overall, development in weight and especially comfort, I think we've come a very long way. On the other hand, following up on the statement I had before, it's also a bit of a shame that basically also what you've been saying all along, that the people spend 2 years of their lives. They try to develop. Let's take the Copa 19 Pluses, for example. They actually do something that hasn't been done ever before. They innovate on a traditional material like leather. They spend so much time, so much effort on really perfecting this new technology. And what do people, who's the average consumer, what do they get out of the Copa when it's presented? Well, we haven't really been told of how big of a stride forward the Fusion skin was. It's just like, here's this laceless leather boot. I mean, that's what we were told. We weren't told why this was so difficult to create, or why the guys who created it are actually such geniuses. Do you know what I mean? It's like... Also, I feel a little bit like the innovation is being undervalued because maybe people don't really understand why is. But
that's what I'm saying, Jay. Give us those stats. Give us that knowledge. Give us that information. It's the information age.
Yeah,
that's why it's like they launched something as crazy as the Copa 19 Plus. People are fixated on the colorway. But that's the industry that's the market that they've created with the consumer. Like, I'm just thinking of let's go back to 2010. Yeah, 2010. Think of Nike's lineup at that point, how distinctive each line was. You had a Mercurial line, and the boots, the Mercurial was not great in that era.
It was
like Superfly 2 and Vapor 6. Neither of them are particularly spectacular, but very distinctive when you compare that to the T90, you compare that to the Tiempo, and you compare that to the CTR 360.
Sure.
4 drastically different boots that were marketed in such a way where it was very clear as to which one was for what and for what reasons. Now you look at the lineup from all the brands like, oh, sock. Oh, leather. Nobody wants leather anymore. Sock. You know, it's like, that's what everything is now.
Think back to 2010. What do you remember mostly from 2010? Because I just thought about it and I was like,
you're right.
Elite pack.
The colorway from the World Cup for Nike really stands out.
I know what you're getting. I'm just being a jerk here. But
you're right. No, you're right. I'm not saying colorways don't matter, but I feel like there's all the emphasis is on colorway now rather than actually like showing how much work and effort and technology and studies have gone into producing these boots.
Yes, but at the end of the day, and this is something I just thought of now. Yes, when you have an iPhone, right? You get the new iPhone, they tell you, oh, it's faster, the processor's better, the camera's got a larger sensor and all that jazz and blah, 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 and you get near-field communication. Yes, but the technology is something you can feel directly. You can see the effects of that directly when you use it in your everyday life. The fact that you can maybe run 0.5% faster over 100 meters is not necessarily something you're going to feel when you wear a boot. I would like to know personally. I would love it. But a football boot's more about how you feel and the perception you have in your head of what the boot is to you when you're on the pitch than technology. You know, the direct benefits of it. Do you know where I'm going with this?
I know, I get what you're saying, but
like when you sit down with the new MacBook, you can feel, okay, I can actually edit 4K video faster than I could on my last MacBook. This is great. This is a good product. But with a football boot, like you can take the Vapor 1s and you can take the Vapor 13s. I would bet you that if Nike they would probably have studies that tells you that you can run faster than the Vapor 13s. And
yeah,
I guess in a lab you probably can. But would you feel that, or would you simply just realize that, okay, the upper is softer, the sole plate is snappier, and is that what you'd be looking at?
But you're making that's the second half of the battle for these brands. Because at that point, yeah, you obviously want the customer to be satisfied with the product that they've purchased from your brand, but they've purchased it from your brand. They've made the choice to buy that particular boot. So that's the first half. That's what I'm saying is they're getting wrong. I think the boots are great.
Yeah.
And you're going to buy your top end boot and you're probably going to be happy with it. But the issue is it's almost like the brand loyalty has gone. People are just kind of jumping on whatever the new bandwagon is.
Brand loyalty is gone, man. It's absolutely been obliterated. It's nowhere near to be seen anymore. Brand loyalty is completely gone. I mean, I think, and that's not just talking about football boots, that's consumer behavior in general. It's just the latest and greatest, no matter where it's from, unless you're stuck in the Apple world and you're not getting out.
Yeah. I just miss the distinction from each. Like if you're going to have 4 lines of boots, have 4 lines that are distinctively different. Like I miss the days where I could put you in a T90 Laser 2 and you would hate your life. And then I'd put you in the Mercurial and be like, oh, this is great. But the reason why is because they're so drastically different from each other. It's a totally different experience. And I think that's what's missing from the modern football boot industry is the differences in experience that you can get from one boot to the next. Because it is,
honestly,
look, we've both tried everything. And I hate to say it, but the difference from one boot to the next, not for everything, but for the most part, is like just like 10%.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're out of time,
So that
Jay.
was a long rant. Oh, that was a pretty good question there.
With what is, I think, a release that maybe should have happened a little bit sooner than it did because they kind of invented this category and it was, I don't want to say stolen from them, but I don't think that they get the credit that they perhaps deserve for the popularity of laceless football boots in 2019. And that brand is, of course, Lotto with, I didn't mention this in my review, but I think that this is a horrible name. It's the Lotto Solista 100 Gravity. I like that they threw the gravity part in. I don't think there's any merit to the Solista part of the name. I have to be honest.
No.
It should have been the Zero Gravity 2019 or something like that. I think that would have been much more impactful.
Absolutely.
But
the funny thing is that now that you have it there in hand, obviously I've seen the images, all that stuff, but it honestly looks like a Predator to me. The funny thing is that Lotto invented laceless boots, and then Adi kind of came and took over with the Ace that turned into the Predator, and now Lotto have kind of taken the Predator back.
Yeah, it's you're right. It's kind of like, they copied us, so we'll copy them type situation. But you're right in that it does look a lot like the Predator, and that's been kind of the overwhelming opinion in the comments that I've seen of any content that I've posted about this particular football boot. And I get it. The way they did the laceless system, the silhouette, even the shape. I know you haven't tried them yet, but the shape of this boot, if I had to compare it to anything, it's shaped like a Predator. I'm not exactly sure why.
It looks like a Predator. There's no two ways about it. It looks like a Predator. And we've seen I'm not gonna say that they straight up copied it, like as you said in your video, like what are they called? Joma did with the Champion Max. Obviously, it's not that big of a copy, but it does. The Pred 19 does spring to mind. That's just the way it is, and maybe it's a little. In my opinion, they should have made. It should have made it more clear that this is not the same boot. They should have made more changes because there are too many similarities, for my taste at least, to make to really respect what they've done with it. It doesn't seem like it might be a great boot. I haven't had it in hand yet, but if they really want people's respect as someone who actually not only make great boots, because they do, we know that, but also really want to push the envelope again, maybe they should have made that into something that doesn't look exactly like a Predator 19 Plus.
Yeah, like when this got unveiled, I don't know, it was right before we went to Japan, which was what? Month and a half, 2 months ago now.
Yeah.
It was a little while. I was like, in the back of my head, I was excited for two reasons. I'm like, oh wow, Lotto's going to do the laceless thing again. I'm curious to see what that's going to be like. And then two, wow, that looks a lot like Predator. I can't wait to roast them.
Exactly. Yeah. That was the first thing I thought. Oh man, you're gonna have an absolute field day with these. You're gonna roast them.
Yeah,
but it turns out
they showed up. Then they showed up, and I'm like, oh man, they're actually really good. As much as it's like the Predator, it's actually better than the Predator in a lot of ways.
Because I saw your video and I hear what you say, but I just, you said it's better than almost any Adidas laceless boot, and I'm just wondering what makes it better than the Copa, for instance, because I love the Copa.
I put it in the conclusion of that video. I said it's one of two laceless boots that I genuinely like, alongside the Copa 19 Plus, and I think it's a tough comparison to the Copa because that is a leather boot and it's so different.
Sure.
But all the other laceless stuff is, aside from maybe the X line, because it's not really a knitted upper, everything laceless has been variations of knitted uppers, including the Nemesis. I'm gonna call that a knitted upper for the most part. And I think this does that the best in terms of just being really soft and flexible, but somehow feeling very secure and structured on your foot. And just them implementing this little bit of like a polyurethane silicone type material on the surface of this laceless system to prevent it from stretching so much. It allows you to have the softness of the upper, but it doesn't expand across the top of your foot like the Predator does, which is something that, everyone's got their own opinion, but I find that to be super noticeable every time I wear a laceless Pred, and it just bothers me. I can't handle it. I need to have my feet feel secure inside the boot, and these just feel a lot more secure to me.
But aren't they super difficult to get on then?
They're not too bad.
The stretch on the Pred is actually there, to make ease of entrance better.
Yeah, they're definitely trickier to get on than I would say. I'd put them on par with the Copa 19 Plus, because I think part of the reason why that laceless system works so well is there actually isn't that much stretch to the laceless system. That's why the lockdown is good. This is similar to that, but I would even argue a little bit easier because they have the collar, so you have kind of more to hang on to when you're trying to pull it onto your foot. It's not as bad as you would think it would be. And then again, to compare it to the Predator, the upper to me feels equally as soft. It's not like the prime knit upper in terms of design, but it feels very similar. And then the outsole that they have that's just taken from the other top end models they've been making for the last couple of years makes the boot 2 ounces lighter, which is like, I don't know what that works out to, 20, 40 grams in comparison to the Predator. These are pretty much on par with all the current top end speed boots from a weight standpoint, which I think means a lot in the modern boot industry.
But it's just, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and maybe we shouldn't go too deep into this. We're just going to brush over it elegantly, right? Because we can do that. I'm just really thinking, do people want to buy that over a Predator? I mean, see, this is my problem here. It might be a very good boot, and I trust you when you say that, but my feeling is just that if Lotto really wanted to be taken seriously as a brand, as I said, and also have the Solista here being taken seriously, why not use that they have the knowledge to build a solid and stable laceless boot? They have a very soft knitted upper, and make it unique so people can actually look at it and say, okay, this is something, a real alternative to the Pred, which I want. Because now I mean, if I saw someone rocking it and I didn't know, I would just think, okay, that's a knockoff Predator. And is that the vibe they want to go for?
No,
I'm not
I totally agree with you. They took the Predator concept, they modified the design, and they've ended up with a product that I would argue is slightly better. We also have to mention that this is retailing at about 180 euros. So it's a fair bit cheaper than all the laceless Adidas options as well.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's cheap at 180 euros.
Oh, it's not, no.
But
I mean,
you're right.
They
should have done something more unique to kind of create their own identity. They pretty much just copied, and they did a good job at copying. But at the end of the day, it's hard to get past the fact that it is so similar.
Yeah, and that's a shame. It might be a very good boot. You get a lot of boot for the money, but still, it just feels a little bit wrong compared to the other Lotto boots that are out there, which are also, well, they're actually dirt cheap, and they're also really good football boots, and they're good football boots in their own rights, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. For the brand that invented the whole laceless thing, you would think that if they were going to do it again, they'd do it in their own way, and they just, I guess, decided not to do that for whatever reason.
It could also just be a dig at Adidas saying, yo, this is actually our concept. The Predator is our boot. Give us our boot back. But I rather doubt. It would be a fun, little...
Yeah.
A bit of banter, but I rather doubt. But the talking about the other Lotto boots was actually an attempt to try and tie it nicely into our next topic, because we're going to talk about the top 5-ish best cheap boots out there, and we're going to define cheap boots as boots costing below, was it $140 you said?
About 130, because the most expensive model we have on here retails for that much. And I think it's hard... By budget or cheap, I think we basically mean anything that isn't a top-end model that retails for 200 plus, right?
Yeah.
But pretty much any second-tier takedown model, they're all retailing above $100. So while it would be nice to make this list $100 or less, it's not realistic because there aren't actually that many boots that are $100 or less being worthy of called a great cheap option.
No, exactly. I mean, you got it's a shame, but you gotta go around the 100, and in my opinion, at least, go a little bit above the 100 to get some true value. But let's just start it off with a boot that's actually right now, at least at unisportstore.com. You know it is the Lotto Maestro 200. You can get it in both this colorway and a pretty slick blue one. Actually, sits right now at 97 euros. Which is not too bad. Well, it's actually a hell of a steal for the boot you get here. We've talked about it to lengths, so I don't think we're going to tire you too much. But if you've forgotten, it's basically a mesh upper covered. It's a textile mesh covered with a very thin layer of silicone. Creates this honeycomb-like, almost Hypervenom 1-esque upper. Has good stability, has some reinforcement here on the mid part of the foot. Decent heel counter, locks your heel nicely in place. It has some suede in the heel, sits very tightly, but also in a comfortable way. Doesn't weigh much. Has a decent outsole that doesn't... It performs well. There's a decent snap to it. And it's just one of those boots that it makes you feel comfortable, elegant, performs. There's decent amount of grip on the ball. it does what it's supposed to for 100 euros. One of the biggest deals in my book that you can still get on the market right now. And it's just a boot that if you have the money, go get it just to have it as a backup boot. Because it's awesome.
Yeah, they're really good. It's. I guess we should be clear in saying that it's not a takedown model. It's just a top-end model that happens to have a low retail price, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, really, really solid option if you're looking for a synthetic boot on a budget.
Absolutely. The next one is also a synthetic boot. It is, however, a takedown, but it's a very good takedown. We've talked about it before, the Vapor 13 Pro. Now, the funny thing here about the Vapor 13 Pro is that the last generation of the Vapor Pro, the Mercurial Pro for that matter, was a synthetic. It was the Taitian upper that we saw more or less used on the Vapor 11 that they kind of carried over, right?
Not officially Taitian. And nowhere at any point in the tech specs. I know, because Jay, I'm saving you right now because the first video I did, I was careful to say it wasn't Taitian, and then the second video, I kind of just like wasn't thinking, and I said it was Taitian, and then I got called out by like 1,000 people. So it is Taitian, but it's not.
But the funny thing is that no matter what they call it, it's made by the guys at the Taitian factory. It's like the Taitian. Yeah. But thank you for that one. But it's the same synthetic upper material made by the company called Taitian, as we saw on it's not the same, it's slightly thicker, it's not the same compound, but it's very close to the touch and feel of the upper that we got in the Vapor 11. That was a more traditional synthetic upper. Now here we have a knitted upper. It's not fly knit, it's what is called circular knit, which is not as elasticated, is not as premium. But funnily enough, it's actually the same knit that we saw on the Nike GS 360. And if you look at the boot, you take a look at the boot, this actually reminds me a little bit of the GS 360 with the whole cut of the collar, the feel of the boot softens up nicely, has that brilliant aggressive outsole from the new Mercurial. It's just a brilliant boot at, I guess, 130 something euros. It's
an expensive takedown model, but the quality is quite good. Like you said, it's pretty much the same material found on the GS 360. As a whole, I wouldn't say that upper feels too far off the upper on the Superfly 4, which was actually flying it. It kind of has that sense to it. It's really good. I mean, it could pass as a high-end boot for the most part.
It really can. I mean, circular knit, obviously, the big difference is the stretch. This feels tighter in that it doesn't expand and retract as much as the really elasticated fly knit would. But once it's on foot, it blends nicely with the foot, and it feels actually more premium than the price point suggests. And if you didn't get the GS 360 and you want a pair, well, it's a very, very good option. I'm a little bit sad that they didn't carry over the GS tooling as well. That would have been awesome, but I mean, you can't have it all.
Yeah, I think for a budget speed boot, that's a really solid option. And for a budget sock boot, if we want to call it that, that's probably the best option.
Oh, it doesn't get better than this. Absolutely not. For 130 euros-ish, it's an outstanding offer from Nike here. And they're really upping the game for their pro boots. Speaking of which, you have the next one.
Oh. I was supposed to be prepared for that?
Okay, I guess that kind of okay. Yeah.
I have it somewhere. Somewhere.
I don't.
Jay, I'm gonna hold my hands up. Just put the picture in my hands. No, joking. But no, the Phantom Venom Pro. Jay, you should know that I'm not gonna be prepared.
Oh, what a train wreck, man.
I just show up. Okay, but the Phantom Venom Pro, which retails for $120, has its flaws in certain ways. The number one flaw, I would say, is that it's difficult to put on. Surely I have it somewhere.
Oh, yeah, surely you do. Check your floor, mate.
Yeah, it's somewhere. $120, but it features a Kanga Light upper.
Yeah.
Which you can't get from any other model from Nike. A lot of people always rave about how great Kanga Light was back when it was a very popular synthetic within the Nike brand. But it is actually still available on a Phantom Venom Pro takedown model, although it's in a much thinner form. I would actually say, and you've worn this boot too, let me know if you agree, it's probably, if you're into the traditional mercurial thing with the thin synthetic, that's kind of what that upper feels like to me, because it's legitimately that thin.
I totally agree. You don't get the same foamy sensation that you got back in the CTR days. It does feel more like, what would I compare it to? Think a slightly thicker version of that almost suede-like material we saw on the Vapor 8s. Do you remember those? The white Vapor 8s? Oh, Josh is gone. Josh is gone.
Them.
Oh, he found it.
Jay, I found
Lord,
them.
he found him. I feel that it gives you a very interesting touch on the ball. It's certainly different than the Elite model, but it's actually very good. And my only but for this is, as you said, it's ridiculously difficult to get on. I almost gave up at one point because there's not much stretch in the tongue piece.
Yeah, the way they designed it is a little dumb.
Yeah, it's actually straight up dumb. Because it would have been a great offer if they'd actually fixed that and made it, just make it with circle in it, guys, or at least a mesh that stretches. It's basically the top silicone part of the mesh part, because the mesh stretches, that's nice, but it's the silicone that doesn't stretch, so you can't get in, and that's the most vital part of it.
Yeah, a little strange. Once they're on, they feel great. And I guess we should also mention that the outsole is pretty well right off the top end model.
Yeah,
I know it's not as aesthetically pleasing in terms of the colors.
Yeah,
but it's pretty close.
Not as snappy and you know, it's not as good the plastic compound used, but it's pretty darn close. And again, you get a lot of bang for the buck here.
Excellent. Number 4.
Which I have. Oh, joy one.
Glad you're prepared.
You can probably find this somewhere on your floor as well. It's, you know, the Nike Premier 2 is one of the boots that they always make it on these most value for money, best takedown boots under 100. It's not a takedown boot, obviously. It's more of a standalone silo. But what you get here is just no nonsense. It's a soft premium kangaroo leather upper. It has a bit of a fold over tongue, which I don't like. And while I feel that this is a bit of a step down compared to the first Premier, which I really liked, it's definitely still a lot of value for money. It's no nonsense, super comfortable. For me, the outsole is a little bit too thin and soft and feels a little flimsy, but I mean, it's a really, really good training boot for me. It's just comfortable for days here.
Yeah, it's a modern interpretation of the Adidas Copa Mundial, which the Copa Mundial could easily be on this list once upon a time before they raise the retail price. Because now, what's the retail on a Copa Mundial in Europe?
See, I'm prepared here. Let me check real quick.
Just out of curiosity, because I know it's $150 now, and it used to be like 110, maybe 120, but it's gone up since then. So as good as those boots are, what is it, Jay?
It is €150, but at your friendly neighborhood boot pushers, unisportstore.com, you can get them for €100. Because we're nice and all. Okay,
well then that's a really solid value for money budget.
It's always solid value for money, yes. But the reason I would argue that you should take the the Premier is that it's lighter and frankly, it's a little bit more streamlined. It feels a little bit more modern. But you never go wrong with the modern. Yeah. So yeah. And that was place number 4. For spot number 5, we actually didn't really know what to do because there are a lot of boots that we felt could get a special mention. But also, if you're out there, you're listening to us and you're looking for boots below €130 or dollars, it's almost the same. We actually have a bit of advice for you because we also talked about how you could sometimes go and get boots that are around €200, maybe $220, that have been reduced. Top-level boots that have been taken down in price to sometimes reach that €130 limit that some people might have. And there are a lot of good boots. We talked about the Puma boots, some of the, the Adidas 19.1 boots could be, some of the Nike Elite boots ever €130
I mean, the Tiempo retails right around an area where that could drop as well.
It could happen, yeah.
I think what a lot of people mistake in terms of the opinions that we share is that we share our opinions based on what we really think about specific products. There's no real motive for me or you to say, buy this particular Adidas boot or this particular Nike boot. We're kind of just saying, hey, this is good, this is not so good for these reasons. Sure. And we could have easily just did the cop-out thing and recommended a fifth option that we really didn't think was that great. But that's just it. Like, let's go over what we talked about. The Puma King Pro is a solid takedown model in that price range, but it's not better than the Premier 2.
No, and I'd rather wait and try and find. I know it's sold out more or less everywhere, but there's going to be a restock of the Puma King Platinums at €200. I'd rather try and see if I could find them at a reduced price and maybe spend a little more because they're awesome boots. The Pros are nice, but I'd go for the Platinum. Yeah. We also talked about the Copa 19.2s, which are also decent at the €100 price point, but I mean, you can do better, right?
Yeah, like why I wouldn't buy it over the Nike Premier 2. There's a lot of, like, even I would even say the Tiempo Legend 8 Pro is a solid football boot. But again, there's not really much reason to spend more money on that versus a Nike Premier 2. And we're mentioning all leather boots, which is not the only takedown models that are good. I think we can both agree that most of the 0.2 and 0.3 takedown models from Adidas aren't really worth it at full retail.
No, I don't think so. I don't really think so. I mean, they're not bad boots, and I'd be okay with them, but I would try and avoid it. Now that there's such a vast array of other great boots at the price point out there, especially if you look at Lotto, some of the pro boots from Nike, I'd actually try and avoid it. Or you can also go and find some of the 19.1 boots on sale somewhere else. Go for some of the older colorways, and I think you'll actually see that they pop up here and there, especially on your friendly neighborhood boot pusher, unisportstore.com. We have a lot of good deals here and there, so just stay sharp if that's what you're looking for, and you can live with not having the latest colorway. I mean, it's going to be outdated in 2 weeks anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The last boot we also talked about is a boot that I actually haven't played in. I've only held it in my hand. The Lotto Stadio 45s. I know you've tried them, right?
Those are really good. Those would be, I wouldn't even say that that's a fifth spot. You could substitute that with the Nike Premier 2. It's a unique pair of leather boots that I can't really explain. If you wore Lotto boots back in their days of popularity, let's say between 2000 and 2006, when they were doing the leather uppers with their treatment process where it kind of took the padding out of the leather but maintained the softness. It was awesome. Really, really good. It's exactly that leather material, and there really isn't anything else out there like that. Maybe the new Puma King Platinum is kind of along those lines, but this is cheaper than the Puma King Platinum. A little bit more of an old school design with the outsole, but it's also got nylon stitching between the upper and the outsole, which we don't see that often anymore. So from a durability and quality standpoint, I believe the boots are also made in Italy. For what can you get them for? €100?
€96.
€96. That's a pretty solid pair of leather football boots.
Exactly. And it has that old school traditional Lotto vibe that we all remember, right? If you're my age, so 31, it just looks stylish. And if you I'd probably actually take the Stadios over just from feeling them in hand over the Premier 2s.
I would too.
Okay, so that goes
just for the sake of being unique. Like that's such a cool pair of football boots. If I saw somebody pull up to training in those, I would instantly want to be their friend.
Oh man, street cred. I mean, honestly, at that price point, there's zero chill from Lotto. They really do great at the €100. I mean, the retail price for most of the boots is 120 to €150. But as I've said, shameless plug. Your friends over at unisportstore.com, we know, we deliver. I mean, you can find the good deals. So it's definitely worth looking for.
Yeah, but in general, if you're on a budget, I think the 4 or 5 boots that we named on this list, I think are legitimately great options.
Yeah, those are the ones to look for, right?
But definitely consider all of your options. Take a look at what's on sale, and sometimes settling for an older model or a slightly older colorway at a discounted price is definitely your best value for money option.
Absolutely. And that should really be something you consider. Instead of, for instance, going out and buying the Vapor 13 Pro, you can, I think right now, if you go for some of the, older midlife colorways of the Vapor 12 Elites, I mean, you should be able to find them at a very, very reasonable price.
Yeah. That's actually a question I've been getting a lot. Should I buy the new Vapor 13 Pro or the old Vapor 12 Elite? And it's Vapor 12 Elite all day long.
Yeah.
Don't even hesitate.
No. I mean, Vapor 12 Pro is very, very good for what it is. But I mean, nothing beats the Vapor 12 Pro Elite if you can get down towards that price. I mean, it's just a different game. Okay, so with the list out of the way, we've also talked about the Lotto Solistas. So now it is time for some questions. We have a lot. We're not going to go over all of them, so we'll save some for next week. But thank you for all of them. Remember that if you haven't already written a question or had one answer that you want to, get an answer to, brilliant. Jesus Christ.
You're doing a great
comment
job,
section
Jay.
is right down below. Leave your questions right down there and we might get an answer out to you. We're going to select the best ones, and the ones we've selected for this week is the following. One from Ender's Lie here. Would you guys recommend me to buy this over the latest Regular Tokyo Lights pack, referring to the Mizuno Morelia Neo Beta? Want to make Mizuno's my mainstay boots, I understand, and this will be my first pair. Want to get the most out of it. I'm not much of a dribbler, so I'm looking for a better touch and responsive passing and shooting. Any advice will be appreciated. Well, Enders, your boys are here to help. So what'd you say, Josh?
Both excellent options. I think you're going to be happy no matter which one you go for, but also very different football boots in almost every single way for the most part, right?
I mean, the only common thing they share is that they're amazing and that they're some of the best built football boots on the market, period. But apart from that, it's like night and day.
Yeah, I think if you want something thinner and lighter feeling, more of a speed boot style, definitely Morelia Neo 2 Beta. Even just a regular Morelia Neo, I think you'd be pretty happy with.
But I'm just a bit confused. He says here he's looking for a better touch. I would probably go and say Regular there. And then he also says responsive passing and shooting, where obviously the Neo Beta is more responsive because you feel closer to the ball. It's a matter of preference and also a matter of your foot shape, because the Regular is significantly wider than the really, really slim Neo Beta. It does accommodate some feet, but if you have a wider foot, go Regular, I'd say.
Yeah, I'd say thinner. If you want a thinner boot, go for the Neo. If you want something a little bit more structured and padded, go for the Regular. But both really, really solid options.
So let's take an easy one here. No, too long. We're gonna rant. Blah blah. We're gonna rant.
Don't get into that one. Nope.
As a long-standing Chembo fan, the new Chembo 8s make me want to ditch my favorite boot and just go 100% synthetics, says Anton. Sad days. And this, this just emphasizes, let's not go back into the discussion, but it just emphasizes what we just talked about, that boots are just becoming, like, merging into one. Everything is becoming the same thing. Even the Chempo, which has been the bastion of modern, classic, how do we say this? Help me out. Capabilities, abilities. It's had the... I'm lost here. The Chempo is also lost. That's what I'm trying to say. It's kind of merged into a leather mercurial.
Yeah, I agree. If you want my advice, yeah, I wouldn't go for the new Tiempo if you've been a long time Tiempo wearer, because I think that it's no longer the premier leather technological option.
No.
I think that title now goes for that category, for that style of football boot. It has to be the new Rebula.
Rebula 3. So
don't
go synthetic, go Rebula 3.
Definitely don't go synthetic. There's no need to go synthetic. No. The Rebula 3 is great. The Puma King Platinum is great. The Copa 19 Plus is great.
Absolutely fantastic.
There's still lots of good options. It's a shame the Tiempo is what it is. And it's not a bad football boot from a performance standpoint, but for longtime Tiempo fans, you could argue it's not exactly a true Tiempo.
Yes. Okay, a question here from Brian Rudy. We never really answered that. Curious, what's better, Mercurial Vapor 12 Pro or Vapor 13 Pro? Which would you choose?
Personally, I would prefer the 12 Pro. Personally.
I think I am with you.
And the only reason I say that is because the 12 Pro is a legitimately like a classic Mercurial experience. While the Vapor 13 Pro is very, very good and a great value for money option, I wear that boot having worn the Elite model and I'm like, oh, it's not the Elite. Where the Vapor 12 Pro is like, okay, this is an experience that is familiar to me for a high-end Mercurial with its Tasian synthetic-esque upper, and I'm not going to be able to get that from the higher-end model. Both great options, but different, right? The Vapor 13 Pro is a sock boot, where the Vapor 12 Pro is more a classic Mercurial.
I think I'd actually go 13 Pro because feels a little now that I'm, just thinking how I feel when I wear the 12 Pro. It feels a little sleeker. It simply feels.
It does. No, you're right. The 13 Pro does feels more expensive.
It doesn't have that padding in the back that I kind of dislike about the 12 Pro. It feels chunky in the back and not as mercurial-y as the 13 does. That's probably what sets them apart from me.
Yeah.
One more
Both
question.
Great options. Yeah. Go for it, Jay.
This is we don't have time for more questions, but I just want a fun comment here. Sam Matthias, sometimes I feel like Josh wants to argue with JayMike, but is too Canadian to do so. Laughing smiley, sorry. Is that the case? Are you just too friendly?
I don't feel like I'm a particularly friendly Canadian, if I'm being honest. But I mean, you tell me. I don't know how many Canadians you actually know. But.
That's a funny thing, right? Because when we met, I think for the first time like a year ago now, and back when I met you, I was like, oh, because we've watched each other's videos for many years, right? So when I met you, I was like, okay, I know this dude says whatever is on his mind, and I was like, he's really, really polite. Why is that? And it dawned on me, that's because he's Canadian. So I think but Danes are also relatively polite. So I don't think we fall too far from each other. That when we disagree, we tend to disagree in a respectful way.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think we've argued about anything on this podcast where the argument would be like, oh, Jay's going to be pissed at me if I say this. It's more so just a difference of opinion. I mean, maybe if that opportunity ever comes up where I can legitimately piss off JayMike for you guys live on this podcast, I will do it. Don't worry. Of course. It'll happen.
This is the purpose of the podcast. Actually, what you don't know is that the podcast will end as a show when one of us becomes so pissed off that we can't speak to the other. So let's see how long we can go on. It's looking pretty good so far, and if you want to keep watching the Boot Nerds podcast, all you have to do is to click the black subscribe button in the middle. Not only will we really appreciate it, and we will stay friends for as long as possible, we promise, you'll also get new podcasts every week that you can see either here on YouTube or listen to on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you want to go, or via bootnerds.com in the description right down below. Before you go, don't forget to go subscribe to Josh's channel or Unisport by clicking the respective subscribe buttons. Leave a question in the comment section right down below. And with those words, I'm JayMike, and I approve this message.
Later. Thanks for watching.
Vi ses, ska I ha det godt.